"Captain, you don't have to do this," she said softly. "You don't have to risk your life for someone who might not even care about humanity. You've got a choice." Aiden paused for a moment, staring at the cold steel walls of the ship. He thought of all the lives lost in the war, the sacrifices made. Was this mission worth it? "I don't have a choice," Aiden replied, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "I have to do this. For all of us." And with that, he stepped aboard the ship, ready to begin the most dangerous mission of his life. The fate of 2 races rested on his shoulders, and Aiden couldn't shake the feeling that everything he knew about the mission was about to change forever. Captain Aiden stood on the bridge of the sleek, silver ship, his hands gripping the cold metal railing. The stars stretched out in front of him like an endless sea, the vastness of space swallowing everything in its path. His mission was clear: rescue Queen Seraphis, the alien queen trapped in an unknown galaxy. But the uncertainty of what lay ahead gnawed at him. "Captain, we're ready for the jump," Lieutenant Kara said, her voice calm but tense. Her eyes flicked to the holographic screen, where the swirling wormhole loomed. It looked like a tear in the fabric of space, twisting and distorting as if it were alive. Aiden nodded, his heart racing. He had traveled through wormholes before, but never to a place this unknown. He glanced over at the rest of the crew, men and women he had fought alongside for years. They were silent, focused, all aware that this mission could end in disaster. "Engage the drive," Aiden ordered, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. The ship hummed to life, the engines firing up as the wormhole began to pull them in. Aiden's stomach lurched as the ship shot forward, the lights flickering in the cabin as the vast emptiness of space swallowed them. The familiar stars outside twisted into streaks of light, and the ship seemed to buckle under the intense gravitational forces of the wormhole. For what felt like an eternity, Aiden held his breath, eyes fixed on the monitors in front of him. The swirling vortex surrounded them, throwing off waves of energy that caused the ship to shake. Then, with a sudden jolt, they emerged into a different space altogether. The stars outside were dimmer here, the galaxy stretched out before them like a cold, forgotten world. The air in the bridge felt thick, and the temperature dropped sharply. Aiden's gaze narrowed. They were far from Earth now, lost in the depths of uncharted space. "Captain, we've arrived," Kara said, her voice tinged with awe. "This is it. We're in the Silurian sector." Aiden nodded, his mind focused. The mission wasn't over. It had just begun. But something felt wrong. He had expected to see a vibrant, active space, perhaps with Silurian ships patrolling the area. Instead, all he saw was silence. The void stretched on, lifeless and empty. "Keep your eyes peeled," Aiden said, his voice sharp. "We're not alone out here. I can feel it." As the ship drifted deeper into the alien sector, Aiden's thoughts kept returning to the Queen. What was she like? He had heard the stories, the legends of her power, her intelligence, and her ruthless leadership. Was she truly humanity's salvation, or was there something more to her than they were being told? Suddenly, the ship's sensors pinged, a high-pitched alert that sent a chill down Aiden's spine. He looked up, his hand instinctively reaching for the control panel. "Sir, we're picking up multiple ships approaching from the left," Kara said, her voice now strained. "They're Silurian ships, but they don't match any of our intel." The screen in front of Aiden flickered to life, showing several large, sleek ships emerging from the darkness. They were unlike any Silurian design he had ever seen. Darker, more menacing. Their shapes were sharp, angular, and clearly built for combat. And they were closing in fast. "We've got company," Aiden muttered. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Kara, get us out of here. Now." But before the order could be carried out, the alien ships opened fire. Bright beams of energy flashed through the void, crashing into the ship's hull. The force of the blast sent Aiden crashing into his seat, his head snapping back. The lights flickered, and alarms blared. "We're taking damage," Kara shouted, her hands flying over the controls, trying to regain control of the ship. Aiden gritted his teeth, his heart pounding. "Shields up. Get us out of here." The ship veered hard to the left, narrowly avoiding another blast. The Exilorian ships followed, relentless in their pursuit. The crew scrambled to respond, but the alien ships were faster, more agile. Her words, simple but filled with unwavering loyalty, cut through the fog in Aiden's mind. He had spent years fighting for his people, fighting for survival. And now, here he was, facing a choice that could define everything. He could lead humanity into a new era of unimaginable power, or he could stand against it and risk everything. "What happens if we refuse?" Aiden asked, looking back at Seraphis. The Queen's expression remained unreadable. "If you refuse, you will die with your people," she answered, her tone soft but final. "The forces you cannot yet comprehend will wipe you out. The galaxy is changing, Captain. The war is already here, and your people will not survive without the strength to stand against it." Aiden's heart pounded in his chest. He had always believed in the strength of humanity, its will, its ability to adapt and overcome. But could they do it without the power Seraphis offered? Could they survive the coming storm? "Tell me more about these forces," Aiden demanded, trying to buy himself more time, to understand what he was truly up against. "Who are they? What do they want?" Seraphis' eyes gleamed with a dark knowledge. "They are ancient beings, older than the galaxy itself, creatures of unimaginable power. They were once the rulers of this universe, but they were driven into the shadows by the rise of civilizations like the Exilorians. They have been waiting, watching. And now, they are coming for everything." Aiden felt a cold shiver run down his spine. "What can we do to stop them?" Seraphis' lips curled into a small, sad smile. "You cannot stop them, not without the power I offer. Your species, your people are too young, too fragile. But I can give you the strength to fight back. I can give you the power to survive." Aiden clenched his fists, his mind racing. If they refused her, if they walked away, humanity would face extinction. There would be no second chance. He knew that. But the price, the cost of what Seraphis was asking, it felt like a gamble, one that could destroy everything they held dear. He thought of Earth, the people, the cities, the life they had built. He thought of the sacrifices made, the wars fought, and the lives lost. Was it worth it? Was it worth sacrificing their morals, their humanity, for the chance at survival? "Captain," Kara's voice pulled him back to reality. "We can't stay here forever. We need to decide." Aiden looked back at the Queen, who was watching him intently, her glowing eyes filled with a mix of anticipation and patience. She knew the choice was his. "I'll do it," Aiden said, the words leaving his mouth before he could fully process them. His voice was steady, but inside, he felt a storm of doubt. "I'll accept your offer, but on one condition." Seraphis raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What is it?" "I won't do this alone. I will not lead my people into this future without their consent. If they are to be a part of this, they must choose for themselves." The Queen studied him for a long moment, as though weighing his words. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. I will grant them the choice. But understand, Captain, once you have made this decision, there is no turning back." Aiden swallowed hard, the weight of his decision settling deeper into his bones. He had made his choice, but the true cost of that choice was still unknown. As he turned to face his crew, he knew that the fate of humanity had just been sealed. The future was now in their hands, and whatever path they chose, there would be no going back. "Prepare yourselves," Aiden said, his voice firm. "We are about to change everything. Together, we will face the storm, but we must be ready for whatever comes next." And with that, the crew gathered, united in their uncertainty, but determined to face the unknown. What awaited them in the coming war? and the price they would ultimately pay for power was still uncertain. But one thing was clear: they had crossed the point of no return, and the galaxy would never be the same. The atmosphere in the command center was thick with tension. The crew stood in silence, each member deep in thought, processing the monumental decision they had just made. Aiden could feel the weight of it pressing down on him, heavier than any battle he had fought in before. They had chosen to accept the Queen's offer. They had chosen to wield power that could change the galaxy forever. But now the consequences were starting to settle in. Seraphis stood before them, her regal presence filling the room. Her eyes, glowing with an ethereal light, seemed to hold centuries of knowledge, yet there was an undeniable coldness in them. The Queen wasn't just offering power, she was offering a path to survival, a path that might come at the expense of everything they had ever stood for. "Are you ready, Captain?" Seraphis's voice broke through the silence, low and resonant, but with an underlying urgency. "The forces you face are closing in. Time is running out. You must act now." Aiden swallowed hard. He had made the decision, but nothing could have prepared him for the weight of the words she spoke. The ancient enemies she had warned them about were no longer a distant threat. They were here. And with them, the galaxy's fate hung in the balance. "Yes," Aiden said, his voice steady, but his mind still racing. "We're ready, but how do we begin?" Seraphis stepped forward, raising a hand. Her fingers glowed with an otherworldly light, and as she spoke, her words seemed to resonate in Aiden's very bones. "You must first accept the gift," she said, her voice more like a command now, a force that was impossible to ignore. "You will become what you were never meant to be, a part of me, a part of the power that lies beyond this galaxy." Aiden nodded. He had accepted the terms, but now, as he stood before the Queen, the magnitude of what was about to happen hit him with full force. He could feel the air around him vibrating with energy, a low hum that seemed to grow louder as Seraphis chanted in a language that was ancient, alien, and terrifyingly beautiful. His crew watched in silence, their faces filled with a mixture of fear and awe. Kara stood closest to him, her hand resting on her sidearm, ready for whatever might come next. Aiden could see the uncertainty in her eyes, just as he felt it within himself. But there was no turning back now. The choice had been made. The Queen's voice rose in a crescendo, and a bright flash of light filled the room. Aiden's body stiffened as a wave of power surged through him. It wasn't pain, but something far worse, something that felt like his very essence was being pulled apart, stretched thin, and then remade. His mind spun as visions flashed before his eyes. Visions of distant stars, of ancient civilizations, of battles fought long before humanity had ever taken its first step into space. The knowledge and power that flooded his mind were overwhelming. He could feel the weight of an entire galaxy pressing on his shoulders. The light faded, and Aiden stumbled, his knees buckling beneath him. Kara was by his side instantly, her strong arms catching him before he could hit the floor. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself as the world around him began to come into focus again. He looked up at Seraphis, his eyes wide with shock. What just happened?" Seraphis' expression was unreadable, her eyes still glowing with the same eerie light. "You are no longer just a human, Captain. You are something more. The power you sought is now a part of you. It will change you, just as it will change all of humanity." Aiden could feel it now, deep within him, a force unlike anything he had ever experienced. It pulsed inside him, a steady rhythm that matched his heartbeat. His body felt different, stronger, faster, but with it came a heavy burden, one that he had only begun to understand. "The others," Aiden said, his voice strained. "What about them? The crew? They will share in the power as well," Seraphis said, her voice cold but assured. "But it will take time. They are not ready to accept it as you are. But soon, they will." Aiden nodded, his mind racing. He could feel the power coursing through him, but there was no time to focus on it now. He had to act. The forces Seraphis had warned about were closing in, and they were running out of time. "We need to prepare," Aiden said, standing up with Carrot's help. His hand shook, but his voice remained firm. "We have no idea what's coming, but we need to be ready. The galaxy is at war, and we are the ones who must fight." Seraphis watched him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded slowly. "The battle has already begun. The forces you face are unlike anything you can imagine, but with the power I have given you, you will stand a chance." She was everything Aiden had expected, and yet nothing like he imagined. Her alien features were elegant, almost ethereal. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes glowed with an unnatural light, sharp, intelligent, and piercing. She was beautiful in a way that made Aiden feel both awestruck and uneasy. She was the ruler of the Xylorian people, a being of immense power, but she was also a prisoner. Aiden stepped forward, his heart hammering in his chest. The Queen's gaze locked onto him the moment he entered, and for a second, the world seemed to stop. There was something ancient in her eyes, something that transcended time. It was as if she could see straight through him, reading his very soul. "You came," she said, her voice soft but commanding. The sound of it was like music, soothing yet filled with power. "I wondered if you would." Aiden took another step forward, his mind racing. He had been prepared for many things: an enemy, a trap, or even a confrontation. But he hadn't expected this. He hadn't expected to feel such connection. "I've come to help you," Aiden said, his voice steady, though there was a part of him that wasn't entirely sure what that meant. "The United Earth Fleet sent me. They need you. We all do." The Queen's lips curled into a slight, knowing smile. "Do you believe that, Captain? That you came here to rescue me?" Aiden hesitated. The question felt deeper than it appeared. He had expected a simple mission: save the Queen, return home. But standing here in her presence, surrounded by the eerie stillness of the fortress, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more, something that neither he nor the fleet understood. "I don't know what to believe," Aiden admitted, "but I was told you were the key to saving humanity. That's why I'm here." Her smile faded, and for the first time, a flicker of something dark passed through her eyes. "Saving humanity," she murmured. "You think I'm here for you?" Aiden stiffened. He had prepared for a conversation about power, about politics, about the future. But this wasn't what he expected. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. "You came here with a mission, Captain. But what you don't understand is that I'm not the one who needs saving," she said, her voice growing colder. "I've been waiting for you, for the one who could understand what's truly at stake." Aiden's heart skipped a beat. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud, and he could feel the weight of them pressing down on him. He had thought he was here to save her. But now, it seemed, the truth was far more complicated. The Queen slowly stood from her throne, her movement graceful but powerful. "The future of both your species is not in my hands. It's in yours," she said softly, her eyes narrowing as she looked at him. Aiden felt a chill run down his spine. What was she saying? Why did it feel like he had just stepped into something far bigger than a simple rescue mission? And then, before he could speak, the Queen's voice filled his mind, clear and piercing. "You have no idea what you've walked into, Captain, but you will soon enough." The room seemed to grow colder, darker, and Aiden realized, for the first time, that nothing about this mission was simple. Nothing at all. Captain Aiden stood in the dark, cold room, staring at the holographic display in front of him. The walls of the United Earth Fleet's command center were filled with maps and charts, but none of it made sense. Why was he here? The top brass had summoned him for an urgent mission, but they had told him nothing. Not even the details. Only one thing was clear: the mission was critical. "Captain Aiden." The voice of General Richards echoed in the room. The old man's tone was serious, his words clipped. "This is a high-priority assignment. We've had no choice but to put you in charge." Humanity's future may depend on it. Aiden's heart raced. He had been through many dangerous missions in his career, but nothing like this. He was a soldier, not a diplomat or a spy. The thought of being trusted with something so important felt strange, and it made him uneasy. Why him? The general's face flickered on the screen, his eyes sharp and full of authority. You've been chosen because you have the skills, Aiden. You're the best we've got, and this mission requires someone with your unique abilities. Unique abilities, Aiden repeated, frowning. He had never been told why they singled him out, only that he was a special case. But this was different. He could feel it in his bones. The air in the room seemed thicker, charged with a sense of urgency. You'll understand soon enough. I'm sending you to save something. Someone. She's not human, Aiden, but she may be the key to saving us all. Who? Aiden asked, his voice low. He had fought aliens before, but the idea of saving one, it felt like a betrayal to everything he had been trained for. Her name is Queen Seraphis, General Richards replied, his voice unwavering. She's the leader of an alien race, the Xilorians. They were once our enemies, but things have changed. Now, the fate of humanity is tied to her. She's trapped in an unknown galaxy, and we need you to get her out. Bring her back alive. Aiden's mind spun. The Xilorians, they had been at war with Earth for decades. Countless lives had been lost in the battles. How could the United Earth Fleet expect him to risk everything for one of their leaders? Why her? Why now? Aiden asked, still trying to make sense of the situation. The galaxy is shifting, Aiden, General Richards explained, his eyes narrowing. A new power is rising, one that threatens both humanity and the Xilorians. If Queen Seraphis is lost, there will be no hope for either race. She is our only chance for peace and survival. Aiden's head was spinning, but he didn't have time to argue. The order was clear. Go, save the Queen, and return with her. The fate of the universe was hanging by a thread, and only Aiden had the skills to accomplish the task. But there was something else nagging at him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Why would they trust him with such an important mission? There were others in the fleet, more experienced officers, more skilled diplomats. Why him? It felt too risky, too dangerous. And yet there he was, standing in front of a commander who had put his faith in him. Captain, are you ready? General Richards' voice pulled Aiden back to reality. I'm ready, sir, Aiden said, though doubt lingered in his mind. Good. We don't have much time. We've sent a scout ship ahead to map the galaxy. It's been weeks, and we've received nothing back. It's as if she's been swallowed by the stars themselves. But we're certain she's out there somewhere. Your mission is to find her, save her, and bring her back to Earth. Whatever it takes. The words echoed in Aiden's head as he left the command center. The mission was simple, on paper, but everything about it screamed danger. A dangerous alien queen, trapped in a galaxy no one understood, with an enemy force potentially waiting in the shadows. Aiden had faced death many times before, but this mission felt different. The stakes were higher than anything he had ever imagined. As Aiden prepared for the journey, his mind raced with questions. The Xilorians had been humanity's greatest enemies. The war had torn apart whole cities, destroyed families, and left scars on both sides that would never heal. So why, after all this time, would Earth risk sending a soldier to rescue their queen? The more Aiden thought about it, the more uncertain he became. The queen had been a symbol of the alien race's power, their ruler who controlled their vast fleet. Yet now, the fate of both humanity and the Xilorians was tied to her survival. Could he trust the fleet? Could he trust the queen? Or was this some kind of trap? Just as he was about to board the ship, a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was his first officer, Lieutenant Kara, standing beside him with a look of concern on her face. Aiden looked at his crew, his mind clear for the first time since they had stepped into this unknown. He could feel the weight of his decision, but now there was no room for doubt. They had chosen this path, and now they had to see it through. "We'll fight," Aiden said, his voice rising with determination. "Together. For humanity. For the future of the galaxy." As he looked at his crew, their faces now filled with renewed purpose, he knew there was no going back. They had crossed the threshold, and the storm was about to hit. But Aiden was ready. He had the power, the will, and the strength to lead them through it. The galaxy would change, but humanity would not fall. Not today. Not on his watch. The ship's engines roared to life as the crew took their positions. The time for hesitation had passed. The battle for the future of the galaxy was about to begin, and Aiden was prepared to face whatever came next. As they sailed toward the unknown, Aiden could feel the storm rising on the horizon. But now, they were ready for it, and humanity's fate was in their hands. Aiden's breath caught in his throat as Queen Seraphis' words echoed in his mind. "You have no idea what you've walked into, Captain, but you will soon enough." The chill in the air grew heavier, and the silence around them seemed to pulse with a foreboding energy. Aiden took a step back, his eyes scanning the Queen. Her calm demeanor only made the situation more unsettling. The throne room, once eerily silent, now felt alive with an ominous presence, as though the very walls were closing in on him. "What do you mean?" Aiden asked, trying to mask the unease in his voice. His mission was to rescue her, to bring her back to Earth. That's all. But now, it felt like he was standing at the edge of something much darker, something that might tear apart everything he thought he knew. Queen Seraphis tilted her head slightly, her glowing eyes narrowing as she studied him. "You've been told that I am the key to saving humanity, Captain. But the truth is, I am the key to something much more dangerous." Aiden felt a shiver run down his spine. His gut instinct was screaming at him to leave, to get his crew out of here before they were all trapped in something they couldn't escape. But his duty kept him rooted to the spot. The stakes had never felt higher. He was no longer just saving the Queen. He was uncovering secrets that could change the fate of both humanity and the Xilorians. "I don't understand," Aiden said, his voice firm. "The fleet sent me because they believed you were our last hope." Seraphis' lips curled into a slow, almost pitying smile. "Hope? You think I am humanity's hope?" Her voice dropped, becoming cold and sharp. "You misunderstand, Captain. The truth is, I've been locked away for a reason. For your own safety, and for the safety of your people." Aiden felt a tightening in his chest. "What are you saying?" "The Xilorian Empire is dying," she explained, her gaze never leaving his. "Our power, our very survival, has been drained for centuries. We were once the greatest force in the galaxy, but now we are weak, scattered, broken. The ones who locked me away did so because they feared what I could do." She took a slow, deliberate step toward him. And they were right to be afraid. Aiden's mind raced. He had heard rumors about the Xilorians' decline, about their once powerful empire falling apart, but nothing had prepared him for this. The Queen, their last hope, was not just a leader. She was a weapon that could destroy or save them all. "You're not here to help us, are you?" Aiden said, his voice a low murmur. Seraphis' expression softened slightly, though there was still a coldness in her eyes. "I could help you, Captain, but I will not do it for free. You want to know the truth. The truth is, I hold the power to reshape the galaxy, to destroy your enemies, and even to give your species something it has never had before: immortality." Aiden's heart skipped a beat. "Immortality," he repeated. The word sounded impossible, like something ripped from myth and legend. But looking at Seraphis, he knew she was serious. The air seemed to thrum with her power, an ancient and untapped force. "Yes," she said, her voice soft, but filled with authority. "I can offer you and your people something no one else can, but it comes at a cost. You think you're here to rescue me? No, you're here because the galaxy is in turmoil. You're here because I am your only chance to survive the coming war. And to make that happen, you must be willing to pay the price. Aiden's mind swirled with questions. What did she mean by a price? And what was this war she spoke of? He couldn't understand how everything had shifted so quickly. He had come here thinking he was on a simple rescue mission, but now it felt like he was standing at the crossroads of something far bigger than he had ever imagined. Price? Aiden asked cautiously. What price? Seraphiz's eyes gleamed with an unsettling mixture of power and sadness. You must be willing to give up what you value most, Captain. Your loyalty. Your humanity. Your very soul. The words hit Aiden like a slap, and for a moment, the world seemed to blur around him. He had always known there would be danger, but he hadn't anticipated this. She wasn't just offering power. She was asking for something more, something far darker. She was asking for a sacrifice. Why? Aiden asked, struggling to grasp what was happening. Why would you ask that of me? Of anyone? She looked at him with a mix of understanding and regret. Because the galaxy is dying, Captain. It's already too late for the Xylorians, but I can offer you and your people a chance to survive, to thrive. All I ask in return is that you understand the cost of such power. Aiden stepped back, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. The Queen was offering a chance for humanity to gain unimaginable power, to secure their future, and perhaps even conquer the galaxy. But there was a price that could destroy everything he believed in. Tell me more about this war, Aiden said, his voice hoarse. What war are you talking about? Seraphiz's face hardened. There are forces rising from the shadows. Ancient powers, older than the galaxy itself, that will soon make themselves known. They will come for us all. The only way to survive is to wield the power I can give you. But once you do, you cannot go back. You cannot undo what you will become. Aiden stared at her, struggling to process everything she had just said. He had come here to save her, to complete his mission. But now, he realized, the mission had changed. It wasn't just about saving her. It was about deciding the fate of the entire galaxy. The crew stood in the background, silent, waiting for Aiden to make a decision. They were in this with him, but they were just as lost as he was. What happens if I refuse? Aiden asked, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and defiance. Seraphiz's gaze darkened. If you refuse, humanity will face the coming storm without the means to fight back. You will be wiped out, along with the rest of the galaxy. The ancient forces will destroy everything, and there will be no hope. Aiden's mind raced. The weight of the decision pressed down on him, and for the first time in his life, he felt the crushing weight of the future. He had come here to save the Queen. But now, he realized, the true question was whether he could save humanity without losing himself in the process. Aiden stood frozen, the weight of Seraphiz's words pressing on him like an invisible force. The quiet hum of the fortress seemed to amplify the deafening silence that surrounded him. He could feel the eyes of his crew on him, their hopes and fears hanging in the air. They had followed him here, trusting him to lead them through the unknown. But now, it felt like the mission was slipping through his fingers. The Queen's offer hung in the balance, unimaginable power, the chance to save humanity, but at a price no one could fully comprehend. Immortality, control, and the chance to shape the future of the galaxy. But what would it cost them? What would it cost him? His mind raced with possibilities. He had seen wars, destruction, and the struggles of humanity. He had seen people suffer, watched as his comrades fell in battle. He had always believed that the will of humanity would be enough to survive. But now he was faced with a question that no one had prepared him for. Was the price of survival too high? I need to think, Aiden said, his voice strained. His mind felt clouded, his thoughts spiraling. The weight of the decision felt unbearable. But there was no time to waste. The Queen's power was the only chance humanity had to stand against the forces that would soon rise. You think you have time to think, Captain. Seraphiz's voice was soft, but sharp. The choice you make today will affect the future of your people. The longer you delay, the closer those forces come. Time is running out. Aiden's jaw tightened. She was right. He couldn't afford to hesitate. His duty, his responsibility, was to humanity. But what kind of future would he be choosing for them? One built on power and sacrifice, or one built on hope and resistance? The thought of his crew, his friends, haunted him. They had trusted him, followed him into the unknown. They had put their lives in his hands. If he failed, it wouldn't just be humanity that paid the price. It would be them too. He turned to face them, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of his decision. We didn't come here to make deals with the devil, but I can't ignore what's at stake. The Queen's power could save us, but it could also destroy everything we stand for. Kara, his trusted lieutenant, stepped forward, her face drawn with concern. Captain, I trust you, but this is bigger than any of us. You're the one who's seen the threats, who knows the stakes. If you think this is the only way, we'll follow you. What the hell is going on? Aiden growled. We didn't come all this way just to be shot down in the middle of nowhere. Kara's eyes widened as she looked at the sensors again. Sir, they're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to force us into a trap. Aiden's mind raced. They were being herded. But why? And by whom? We have to shake them off, Aiden said, leaning forward. Do whatever you can, Kara. I don't want to end up a target for whatever game these aliens are playing. The ship surged forward as Kara pushed the engines to their limit. The Exilorian ships were persistent, weaving in and out of their path, firing blasts that just missed the ship's shields. Aiden's pulse quickened. He couldn't afford to lose the Queen. Not now. We're getting close to the Queen's location, Kara said, her voice tight. I'm picking up her signal, but it's faint. She's somewhere ahead. Good, Aiden said, though he didn't feel it. They were in enemy territory, surrounded by strange forces, and still they hadn't seen the full extent of the danger. A sudden thought struck Aiden. What if the Exilorians weren't the only threat here? What if there were forces even more powerful lurking in the shadows, watching their every move? Forces that wanted to keep the Queen trapped. Keep moving forward, Aiden ordered, his voice cold. We're not turning back now. As the ship sped through the blackness of space, Aiden couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking straight into a trap. But there was no choice. They had come too far. There was no turning back now. And as the Exilorian ships closed in on them, Aiden knew one thing for sure. Whatever lay ahead, it was going to test every ounce of his strength and courage. The ship finally came to a slow halt as it entered the dark, hollow space that housed the mysterious fortress. There was no sign of life, just silence. The crew had been on edge for hours, the tension palpable in the air as they navigated closer to the Queen's location. The Exilorian ships that had pursued them earlier now seemed to fade into the distance, their shadowy forms vanishing behind them. Aiden stood at the front of the bridge, his eyes locked on the screens. He couldn't shake the unease gnawing at the back of his mind. They were about to make contact with someone who wasn't just an enemy, but someone whose power could either save or destroy everything he knew. Captain, Kara's voice broke the silence. We've located her. It's not what I expected. Aiden turned to her. The look on her face said it all. What do you mean? Kara glanced at the monitor again, a mix of awe and caution in her eyes. The screen showed a massive alien structure floating in space, its design sharp, jagged, like something from a nightmare. It was a fortress, made of black, gleaming metal, surrounded by swirling energy fields. The Queen was inside, trapped within this fortress, but there were no guards, no sentries, just darkness. She's in there, Captain. But this place, it's not what we were expecting. It looks like a prison, not a palace. Aiden's heart pounded. The Queen, leader of the Exilorian people, was locked inside a desolate fortress in the middle of nowhere. This wasn't the grand alien kingdom he had imagined. This was a prison, a place abandoned by time itself. "Prepare to land," Aiden said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "We're going in." The ship descended toward the fortress, the massive structure growing larger with every passing moment. The energy field surrounding the fortress flickered as if alive, reacting to the presence of the ship. Aiden watched closely as Kara carefully maneuvered their ship into the landing bay, an empty, cold space inside the fortress. As the ship's engines powered down, the crew filed out, each step echoing through the silence. They were deep inside the fortress now. The walls were smooth and cold, made of materials that felt otherworldly. The air was thick with an unnatural chill. "Stay alert," Aiden ordered, his voice low. "We don't know what we're walking into." They made their way through the dark hallways of the fortress, their footsteps the only sound breaking the silence. The walls were covered in strange symbols, glowing faintly in the dim light. A sense of dread hung over the crew as they ventured deeper into the heart of the fortress. They had no idea what awaited them. Finally, they'd reached the central chamber. The door was massive, made of metal that seemed to pulse with energy. Aiden motioned for the crew to stand back as he approached. As he reached for the door controls, the energy field surrounding the chamber flickered and then shut down, allowing the door to slide open. Inside, the air was heavy, almost oppressive. At the center of the chamber, sitting on a throne made of dark stone, was the Queen. Queen Seraphis.